Good morning. I'd like to call to order our meeting for the Kneehill County Council for Tuesday, October 8th, 2019. We have our agenda before us that was in our package. Are there any additions or changes? Councillor Christie.
There we go. I'll move the agenda as presented.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. We also had our minutes pre-circulated. Are there any comments, concerns? Councillor King.
I'd make a motion to approve the regular council minutes from September 24th, 2019.
Thank you. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, we have a delegation that's scheduled for a little bit later on, so we're going to move all the way down to 5.1.1, the Linton East Microsurface project. Thank you, Brad.
Good morning, Deputy Reeve and members of council. This morning we're bringing an RFD for the Linden East Microsurf project, B1945. A little background, at the May 28th council meeting, administration brought forward to council an approved budget for the Linden East Microsurface was budgeted for $925,000, and we went out to tender, and the qualified tender came in at $948,000. That 948 was no quantities based on that. It was per kilometer. So we recognized that there could be maybe some additions. We were hoping there wasn't going to be, but depending on what subgrade failures may be in there. So when which council approved the extra cost to be covered from the Swallow microsurface. So, and that was estimated at $156,000 to complete that. So we took that 23,000 from the Swallow one and added it at 925. Having done the project in June now, the quantities were increased due to the rail track transition, and then some subgrade failures on 30-4 and the range road known as the Nursing Home Road 254. The additional costs amount to $64,744 for a final project cost for the Linden East at $1,013,240 or $245,35. The other project completed in conjunction with this one is the Swallow Cape Seal, and it came under budget by $132,195. So administration has recommended the additional funds required for the Linden East microsurfacing be transferred from the surplus realized from the Swallow Cape Seal project.
Thanks, Brad. Council. Councillor King.
Okay, I guess we sort of did this once before, so I don't see any reason why we wouldn't agree to do it again. So I would make the motion that council fund the Linden East Microservice project by transferring money from the Swallow microsurfacing project. So use the surplus from Swallow to pay the debt.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Christie. I just canceled it.
There we go. I'm just curious, that motion, does it need the dollar value or just a surplus is fine?
Mike, can you answer that for us?
In this case, just the surplus is fine. We do have the dollar value of the actual money you transfer. That's the important.
Any other discussion? Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you, Brad. That was easy. Okay, up to 5.3.1, Municipal Planning Commission Meeting Cancellation.
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm not on, hello, there we go. Okay. We're coming that, with a recommendation that council move to cancel the October 24th Municipal Planning Commission meeting. Bylaw 1721, which is the Municipal Planning Commission bylaw, states under conduct of business that the commission shall hold such meetings as are necessary to fulfill the commission's responsibilities. The Municipal Planning Commission currently holds their meetings on the fourth Thursday of every month. Council sets the dates and times the Municipal Planning Commission will meet during the annual organizational meeting. The next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 24th, 2019. Only one application was received to be considered by the Commission for this October date. The applicant has agreed to move his application forward to the November 28th meeting, and no other applications can be considered for the October meeting as the deadline for review and circulation has expired, and there are no other agenda items for discussion.
Thank you. Council. Councillor Penner, please.
Seeing that the applicant has agreed to move the application, I would move that we cancel the October 24th Municipal Planning Commission meeting.
Thank you. Any discussion to the motion? Okay, call to question. All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, Agriculture Services Board.
Morning, Deputy Reeve and Council. So the first RFD I have for you this morning is the commemorative bench policy. The recommended motion is that Council approve the commemorative bench policy 12.3 as amended. This policy is being brought forward as part of our ongoing policy reviews to ensure that they are still relevant and follow the direction of Council. I've attached the policy with the amendments highlighted in red for your review. Most of them were grammatical. There was a rewording of one for the regarding the plaque and the material that we used and stuff there, but most of it was just adding the word bench and just grammatically correct, I guess. But Council's options, if there's any questions, I guess, first, or it's to approve the policy as presented, or to approve policy with any amendments, or to maintain the existing policy.
Thank you. Council. Councillor Christie.
There we go. How many benches are there? I'm just curious.
Right now, there's 4 that
Okay.
we've
Okay.
in this program. So at the cost of the benches themselves cost around $1,100. It is a big program for
Yeah, okay.
guys. Get benches.
I'd make the motion to approve the commemorative bench policy as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Christie. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next item, you're up again, right? Horseshoe Canyon parking lot.
Oh, hello. Microphone goes off and on. So this RFD is the Horseshoe Canyon parking lot, and the recommended motion is that council receive this report on the Horseshoe parking lot as information as presented. So I'm going to skip to a couple pictures to help while I talk through kind of what we're looking at doing and what some of the issues are. So when the parking lot was created in 2010, it was sloped towards the northeast corner of the parking lot, with the majority of it anyways. With this, it was fed into a catchment basin, which then fed into a large pipe. This pipe was then drained down to the canyon floor. Almost immediately after that, on that east slope, there was sloughing and erosion occurring because of that amount of water going through. In addition to when they put in that parking lot, that whole side was stripped of all its vegetation. So anything that could have held that soil in place was removed. And this is now 9 years later, most of that vegetation still hasn't returned to there. So now we're seeing the results of erosion over that time. That area alone, we've calculated that for if you had a rain event of 1 hour with an inch of rain, you can get up to 5,000 gallons or 19,000 liters of rain water flowing off that because it's an impermeable surface. So that's a massive amount of water flowing at that one point and eroding and causing sloughing. As well, I've highlighted kind of points where it says standing water. There are ditches created within this parking lot, but when they're created, they weren't sloped properly, and so it's now resulted in standing water. This standing water now feeds in as it permeates and flows through, and it feeds springs that come out on that east side of the slope, and now we're seeing significant sloughing in those points as well. So there's quite a few major issues with this. So I've got pictures from the year that this was done in 2010. So this is what it originally looked like in 2010. You can kind of see the rock up by the guardrail there. That was a catch basin, and then it fed into a pipe that was buried. Though we found in the following year that they had to pull that pipe out because it was already eroding. And within that very next year, that's some of the sloughing that had already started to occur very fast. And then throughout the years, 2012, 13, 14, massive amounts of material kept eroding and sloughing off. 16, 17, 16 was the year when we purchased it, and we seen this as well as at that main lookout that there were these issues, and so we revegetated, regraded that lookout to help address some of this. It helped a little bit, but also within the last couple of years we've had these massive rain events too. So even with the amount of vegetation and stuff we put, there's still a lot of water flowing off. And so last year and then into this spring, from this spring, it's moved, we probably lost 10 feet off of it, and now it's right up against the fence line and power pole, as well as the fossil kiosk. These are some pictures from across the way, looking west towards it, as well as points right at it. See Shelby standing up there, how much it's sloughed off there. but it's right up against the slope. And then speaking to the springs, these are the springs. Brad and myself went out earlier this year and we looked at this situation and stuff, and we've seen the springs, but I didn't have any great pictures from when we went out to now, but these have grown substantially in their sloughing, how much material is being lost in there. So now I'll go back to kind of the overview. So the springs, I don't know if you can kind of see my cursor moving. The springs are kind of to the south of the pipe there, and that's where that sloughing is occurring. And the main sloughing is all between that little building and the corner of the parking lot, and that is all moving. So our plan is to kind of rework this parking lot and kind of strip the concrete, build up material and vegetate it so that it no longer slopes towards, oh, sorry, I'm using my arms. So it no longer slopes towards that corner and hopefully catch a lot of that moisture. And then as well, that'll have a benefit too of adding more parking stalls. Currently we only have about 3 in that area, but by reworking where the flow of traffic is, where that parking lot is, we can gain nearly 10 new parking stalls. And as parking is kind of a shortage there. So we'll rework the slope as well and vegetate it. And Brad and his crews are gonna do kind of what they've been doing with a lot of their slides currently, and digging out that slide point where the moisture's infiltrating, and then bench it, and then we'll put vegetation in. We'll get live staking and really help hold that water instead of it seeping in and causing further issues. But that's just want to kind of inform council of what we plan on doing. This will be done probably towards the late October here, November, after the site's closed. And so we'll hopefully work on that if weather holds, but yeah, I think.
Please don't say holds. Yeah, it comes back. Yeah, I'm kidding. Thank you. Any questions for our presenter? Councilor Christie.
I'm gonna throw the mic away this morning. There we go. On those 2 catchment basins in the parking lot, would it make sense to directional drill them to the bottom of the canyon to get rid of the water from behind?
We haven't really looked at that option, but we have looked at creating another catch basin type, I guess like a large tank that could then overflow and flow. But we felt that we would still run into those same problems of it undermining if you get massive rain events, or if there's any undercutting or undermining, I guess, that would just contribute. But we've talked a lot, and he has some good points that can maybe answer that too.
Thanks, Brad.
Councilor Christie, so where that line goes would be the northern part of that new parking area. From that point there, it'll break back toward the washrooms, into that culvert, or into that ditch, runs across the road. And then that'll carry back around to that drainage down here. Wish I had a laser pointer. That's probably gonna be the best way. The amount of water that flows is strictly out of that goes in that catch basin, is out of that triangle piece. That's all the water that we're calculating there that enters into a 600 smooth wall pipe that the province put in there in 2000. The province did this in 2007 with the rework of Highway 9. They're the ones who created that and made that drainage channel back there. In 2010 is when we took it over from the province. I or 9, we took it over. 10, they paved it, what that system was, still leaving that catch basin that was originally put there by the province, but then creating all that much more flow of water going to that one point. But directional drilling, I mean, it could work, but again, that's a small volume pipe that handles a high volume of water, where you're still gonna have erosion problems. I still think the best is push it back to that ditch. We did in 2011 do some work in there. So we worked on where that pipe was, is basically where the property line is. So everything north that's having the trouble now in the big circle, that was on private land back then where we weren't touching that. That was on the family that owned that Horseshoe Canyon before. So we've pulled the pipe out and fixed that area. It seemed to hold. We put matting down, grew grass. It's about the only spot that grew grass there. But we're finding south at the bottom tip of that triangle to the east is where all those springs are popping out. But if we clean that ditch out and get it to drain a little farther and pull it down to the southeast, I think is gonna be the best, and put it down to where all that vegetation is already growing.
Thank you. Councillor Kiever.
If it wasn't for gravity, you wouldn't have it. So maybe we should work on the gravity.
Gonna go to the moon?
Is there no soil cement or anything that could be put into that soil to make it more stable?
That would be all kind of superficial coverage. So anything like that, it'll eventually, if it cracks or anything, it'll start seeping through and then undermining and breaking away. It's, yeah, just that bentonite material is just terrible to kind of work with.
This whole area was created by
Yeah.
erosion.
Yeah.
Picture looks pretty flat.
The idea is to bench a lot of that area out and build step benches and cut the keyway in to get rid of some of that saturated soil where it's the two different, I mean, even there's bentonite there's two different materials there that creates that slide. So we can bench that and cut a keyway in and a small bench and not leave it so vertical to go down. Let that water gradually soak into some of the new vegetation that Bowen had spoke of putting in there to soak up some of that water.
Councillor Hugo.
Hey, it worked. Yeah, this is an environmentally sensitive area, correct? So aren't we gonna have to deal with the provincial government and everything changing waterways and all of that kind of stuff? Because this is an exercise in futility. We farmed over around these areas for 100 years. You're not gonna stop the erosion. Seems like this, and then 2 years later, we're gonna be dealing with another slide, another slide. How much money are we gonna keep putting into Horseshoe Canyon when we are at a point where we can't keep spending money on all this? Like, I think you're gonna be dealing with, because it is an environmentally sensitive area, you are gonna be changing water course, putting steps in. So I think you'd have to have an engineering drawing for these steps, would you not, Bowen?
Well, the problem is caused by the impermeable surface at the top. So by vegetating that, that's going to help soak up that water that would have stayed up top originally. So we've had engineers look at this and stuff, and it's all the same situations with these areas in the Badlands, dealing with the bentonite and slides. They're kind of all the same.
As far as changing waterways, this is not classified as a waterway. That there'd be no regulation for Alberta Environment changing, because it's not a water course nor is it a tributary. We're not working in the bottom of the creek. The biggest thing here would be the historical resource failure, the HRV, making sure we have that. And the HRV basically is gonna come out and look at that. We find a dinosaur bone, we stop. That's gonna be your biggest thing in an ESA is the HRV, which is not a drastic thing. People deal with it within gravel pits, anything along the riverbanks. I mean, the province has the same issue along 837. If you drive the 837 in the summer, and the amount of slides that close that highway down, it's the nature of the area.
We've also done the historical resource assessments on this property and looked at all the areas within it and stuff. So if we've done work and we find anything, we know the steps to take to have the Terrell come out and take a look and assess from there, so.
Well, thank you for that, but I just find that we're just spending more money after more money on Horseshoe Canyon. This is gonna be an ongoing thing, as long as we own it, as long as we have it. I can't see us, like, you know, you're asking for a decision, but I'd like to know kind of where you're coming from, what kind of a monetary value are we looking at to fix this for this time? And will we be looking at, more than likely, we'll be looking at the same or more in the future? Like, you know, I'll make a decision, but I have no idea what kind of money we're talking about here, and that's what my major concern is right now. We just keep spending more money and more money. We've spent $1.3 million since we've owned it, $90,000 a year, and we have nothing. You know, it's an asset, yes, but it's also a very big liability for the county. So do we have any idea what this would cost us?
So we're looking at probably about a month with 2 hose there. It'll run under our operating expense basically through the fall. Then that depends on the winter too. If we've got an Indian summer coming for November, we've got that time. We're working on slides. We work on slides all the time on the roads recently. We're pulling out old gumbo stuff that's been stuffed in there for years, where we've had slide issues where you go back and you push it back up. 2 years later, you're back there fixing it again. We're replacing a lot of that with clay material. But we're probably looking at a good 21 to 30 days of work. I could figure that out on a value, but it really is already costed through the operating expense of the organization. So we're not looking at a contract services bill.
As well on the vegetation side, that's all already through our operating side and our ongoing reclamation of the site and stuff, so.
So you're working with the current budget that you have?
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly. Great. Councilor Hugo?
You were talking about building the steps and bringing in different material in there. So would you be looking at bringing in clay to shore up the edges? Like, is that, like, I know we used to deal with that all the time, is where on environmentally sensitive areas, you weren't allowed to bring in a different type of soil to shore up the areas. I know that a lot of provincial highways, when you had to do a slide, we had to find the same material to put in, because Alberta Environment and everybody starts complaining that it's completely different. So are we gonna be dealing with bentonite on top of bentonite on top of bentonite?
We'd be looking at trying to dry some of that material out, Councillor Hugo. Not bring in new material for there. Again, I know the province, that I've never heard of that road, because I know they've hauled pit run in along the 837, the 575 slides, which are no different area than what these are, to fix some of those slide issues. I know the provinces use styrofoam or foam injection in some of their slide areas along their highways and their ESAs. I don't plan on pulling that material out or hauling new material in. My suggestion on some of the slides that we're working on now is that we haul in clay, much like what we did near your house there. We pulled the material, changed that gumbo material out that was put in there. Basically, when they used to build roads years ago, the waste material was put into the side slope. The side slope is the issue, that the 2 different materials, the road's built out of clay and the side slope is built out of gumbo. The gumbo, when it gets wet, is very heavy, creates that slip between those 2 different materials. This is still natural land, so we're not anticipating to take a bunch out. What we're trying to do is reconfigure that from a 2-to-1, if not 1-to-1 side slope, and put a step in there so it can basically slow that water down so it stops eroding, basically.
The only material that would be brought in would be on that upper area for the topsoil, because there's no topsoil right there, so that'd be replacing that. And we have a pile from where we've created the pathways that we've stripped off, so the material's from the site already. So it's got a good seed bank and everything for it.
Lots of excellent thoughts for that. Thank you. So the recommended action was for us to receive this as information as presented. Is there any other questions before we look for a motion? Okay, if I could have a motion. Councillor Christie.
There we go. I move to accept as information this on parking lot.
Thank you. So we have a motion to receive as information. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Crawl back to the start of our agenda where we skipped around a bit. We're back to delegations. 3.1, we have a community grant application. Nathan Rook from the Prairie Bible College is here. Come on up. Nathan, before you get started, we'll just introduce ourselves.
Sure.
We'll start here with Councillor King.
Good morning. Sorry, am I supposed to introduce myself?
Unfortunately, we're having some mic difficulties.
Okay.
I'm gonna ignore the mic, I'm kidding.
Good morning.
Morning, Jim Hugo.
Good morning.
Wade Christie.
Good morning.
Faye McGee.
Good morning.
Glenn Keever?
Good morning. Good morning. Great. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Nathan. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, good morning, councillors, CAO, other staff members, and guests. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak about a grant submission that we made. I also want to thank you for all that you do to ensure that this area, specifically Three Hills, is a great place to live and to be. And I want to just start by introducing myself. My name is Nathan Rook. I'm a current board member at Prairie College, have served 7 years, and my term expires in 2 more years, so we'll have served a total of 9 years. My father graduated in 1980 from the college, and I remember running around as a little kid in the Three Hills community. I came back to college in 1993, graduated in 97, and then I went home, started a commercial construction business after I graduated in 97. I moved my family here in 2015 to volunteer for 1 year, and we liked the community so much that we kept asking to stay 1 more year and 1 more year. We're currently going on to our 5th year at Prairie. Part of my job there is to work on anything that the management team has need to accomplish and that I have time for. My income, I'm also a partner in a development company in the Greater Toronto area, so that takes me out east a number of times a year. But it does allow me to stay in this community, which we really enjoy, and to contribute it on a volunteer basis at the college. My wife was adamant we'll come here for 1 year and then we're back to Abbotsford. That's where we were raised, born and raised. My oldest daughter was adamant that we'll come here for 1 year and then go back. But they have come to love this place, so much so that my wife, as we walk around town, she says, I love Three Hills. I love Three Hills. We can't leave until our oldest daughter graduates. And I'm good with that if we can continue to make that work. I'm sure that all of you are aware of Prairie College. So I won't go into a lot of detail. I'll only share what I think is pertinent to give you some context and as it pertains to the grant application. Prairie is currently in its 97th year. We're looking forward to our centennial, which we'll celebrate in 2022. We have over 14,000 graduates, and our alumni have worked in over 100 countries around the world. Prairie has been a big part of the Three Hills community, and from this school, many nations of the world have been impacted. I recently heard a story of the Dean of Women at Regent College on the campus of UBC in Vancouver. She worked in Kenya for many years, was originally from Calgary, and she would tell the local people that she was from Calgary, Alberta, and they had no clue where that was. She wasn't a Prairie graduate, but she then referenced, well, it's close to Three Hills, Alberta, and the local people said, we know where Three Hills is. And I believe that's because many of our graduates have gone to these areas. Another graduate of ours, Dr. Ron Guderian, class of 1964, spent a career in Ecuador. He was our distinguished alumni in class of in 2003. And Dr. Ron Guderian discovered river blindness in Ecuador, the first to diagnose it, worked on a cure, and sought to eradicate river blindness in Ecuador. As an outsider who has traveled a fair bit, I find that the culture and the atmosphere of Three Hills to be quite amazing. It's unlike any other community that I've experienced. And I believe that in part, this is due to the wonderful contribution that Prairie makes to this community. In addition to contributing to a healthy culture, I also believe that Prairie contributes significantly to the economy of Three Hills. We currently have approximately 67 full-time staff employed. We also employ a handful of part-time staff. We hire other businesses in the community to do electrical work, groundskeeping, carpentry, supply concrete. Students frequent restaurants, grocery stores, pharmacy. Staff kids attend the PCA or the Three Hills School. And on the way over, I saw the Cal Tire sign, reminder to tighten the bolts after tire change. So let's add that in, that we support the local tire store and get service work done on our vehicles there. So while all of that is true, it's also true that Prairie receives zero government funding for tuition discounts. Whereas public institutions have subsidized education, Prairie does not. And at this time, our operational revenue does not support or cover our annual expenses. We still need approximately 1/3 of our funding from donors, friends, and alumni. So every year, funds are tight. So why am I here? It's because we submitted a grant for the initiation of a recycling program on campus. 2 years ago, I was approached by a student who challenged me with the lack of recycling on campus, and she was right. We have not done a good job in this area. So I began to research what a recycling program would look like and what the cost of such a program would be. I believe you received a package that has a cost breakdown in there. One key factor for us to consider this was that this program would have to be easy to do. We're not working with homeowners who can set up 7 bins in their garage and put the recycling there and then take it to the local recycling. We're working with students and we're working with guests. So as we discussed and thought about this program, we decided that we would address this program in the following ways. We would like to place bins in convenient locations. Of course, it has to be convenient for people to participate. We've identified plastic bins that we want to install in the dorm kitchens. We have 15 kitchens in the dorms, and we want to put 3 bins in each dorm. Then we've identified more attractive bins that we would like to put into our more public places. Perceptions are big, and so we want nice bins in those facilities. The challenge that I have experienced in Three Hills, and first of all, I want to say I really believe that Three Hills does a great job of recycling. I find that they recycle more here than my home community of Abbotsford does, and I'm grateful for that. And yet, there are some things that are confusing for me. Paper separation. I try really hard to get all the paper separated into the right bins. I think I do that, pretty much. Well, I think I'm able to achieve that most of the times, but there are times where I'm second guessing myself. The plastics, they accept 1 through 7. Not every community does that. However, now we have to separate number 2, and now we also have to separate the pill bottles into a separate area. So as I've experienced that, I'm grateful for all that they do recycle, but I anticipate students in dorms trying to do that separation, and I don't think that would work. So what we've done is we've contacted a company who would be willing to pick up mixed recycling. That means we can put everything that's recyclable into one bag, and they'll pick it up and sort it elsewhere. The cost to do that, as we've taken a look at our costs, and we do pay a small fee to have cardboard recycled from 2 of our facilities. When we take a look at the cost of mixed recycling, deducted that monthly expense for the existing cardboard, in order to pick up mixed recycling through the year would only be an increase of about $1,500 to our operating budget. We think that's a win. We also want to see a high engagement with students. The student union this year came to us and said, can we please get a recycling program going? So that we know that the student union will champion this initiative among the student body. We also have student leaders on each floor who will, multiple student leaders on each floor, who will also monitor the student use of this program. And then we would use student hours to execute this program, volunteer hours to execute this program. We have a program called Service Work on Campus. Every Wednesday at 10 o'clock, students, staff, and faculty stop what they're doing. They all are assigned to a different area on campus where they spend 1 hour cleaning and doing work within that area. We envision creating a new service work team to look after recycling. So as you have seen by my breakdown there, the total cost for this program is around $34,000. We have broken that into 2 phases. I don't believe we can raise the money for $34,000 all at once. So we broke it into 2 phases. The first phase, and this is what I wrote in the grant, for $8,260 would be so we can get the recycling program set up in the dorms, and then we would continue to raise funds to do the balance of the buildings. What we anticipate saving, diverting from the local landfill, if we have 45 bags that we pick up each week from the dorms, and 12 bags each week from local the public facilities, and if each of those bags weigh 5 pounds each, and we pick them up for 50 weeks of the year, that'll approximately be 14,000 pounds of recyclables that would otherwise go to landfill. Now, if we want to be really conservative, and we just cut that number in half, then that's about 7,000 pounds that we'll just divert from the local landfill. So we anticipate that we'll have a large buy-in. The student union president, Peter Wheatley from South Africa, he's an aviation student. He met with me just before I came, and he mentioned that in their, they have a little card where students can make recommendations to student union, and he just picked up a card there yesterday with one of the students requesting, can we please get the ability to recycle cardboard in dorms? And he was grateful to be able to say that, yes, we are working on that right now. So I want to thank you for receiving our grant submission, for allowing me to speak in further detail with you, and I would entertain any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Nathan. Council, any questions for our presenter? Great, thank you
Okay.
very much. Have a good
Thank you
afternoon.
again.
Okay, we have another presentation under 3.2. We have Deb Watson from Hillside Lanes Bowling Society. And we'll assume you heard all the introductions already, so go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Council. I'm Deb Watson of Hillside Lanes Bowling Society. Joining me with me is Glenn Farrell, Treasurer of Hillside Lanes Bowling Society. Thank you for inviting Hillside Lanes to present our funding request to you. In our application, we're asking for a third of the cost for a new scoring program. We're also asking Town of Three Hills for a third of the cost, with the remainder of the third from the society itself. As we said in our application, we're in need of a scoring program, and this program consists of software monitors and a control post on each lane. Our current program is 24 years old, and it has crashed in the last year. As all software goes, it only has a certain shelf life. This software has served us well, but it struggles now to continue to score accurately. Not only is it a problem for us now, we had it crash, but the hard drive was replaced with a used hard drive. And so it's not going to last much longer either. So we serve a broad spectrum in the community and in the surrounding area, from the very young to the very old. We start at 3 that we will coach on the lanes, and we have someone who just turned 90 and he was bowling in 2 leagues. It's a low-impact sport, and anyone can virtually come and bowl. We host many gatherings, from birthdays to special occasions to corporate special events to visiting and hometown teams, volleyball, basketball, hockey teams. We currently have 3 leagues, 3 senior leagues and 3 adult leagues, and 2 afternoon kids bowl leagues. I recently went around to some of the kids at Kids Bowl, and I got some of their view on what they think about Kids Bowl. Liam, who's 6, said, because it's fun. Logan, 14, bowling challenges myself and my friends. Xander, 9, likes the strikes and winning coupons. Aubrey, 10, because no one judges you and everyone cheers for you. In closing, we feel we are a true asset to the economics of the area and hope you will seriously consider our funding request towards the scoring program project of Hillside Lanes Bowling Society. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for our presenter? Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to call a 15-minute break. We'll see you back in 15 minutes. Hello, I'd like to call us back to order at 9:36. And we will move on to our agenda item 6.1, Shallow Gas Tax Relief Initiative. And I understand Bill will be presenting this request.
Through the chair, attached is the report giving an update on the shallow gas relief program, which is a provincial initiative. The legislative requirement allows council to write off taxes as outlined section 347 of the Municipal Act. The province has provided a list of all the wells and related pipelines that are eligible. Staff have confirmed that, and there is an appendix outlining the impact on the county of participation in the program. So for the fiscal 2019 year, the relief that would be provided at 35% of all the taxes outstanding or levied in 2019 is roughly 2.3 million. Just for council's information, that represents around 20% of the total provincial program. So staff are recommending that council participate in this provincial program. The good news is we have already received a 50% rebate through a reduction in the September education requisition, and the balance would be received by the county in December by a further reduction in the education requisition. That's basically a summary of what the provincial initiative is all about. And then again, the policy initiative of the government is to provide relief to producers that are experiencing financial difficulties. Be pleased to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? Councillor King.
So are we having some of these companies come and currently pay their taxes? Are we seeing people coming through the door to pay their 2019 taxes?
At this point, we're unclear what the implication is going to be, given that our due date for taxes is until October 31st. So in November, we'll be able to answer that more specifically. The good news is we are getting relief at 35% right now through the education rebates. There are companies that are likely not to pay, so at least the county is receiving the 35% credit to the total taxpayer's bill, so to speak. So that's good news. But in terms of participation and actual payment, that is yet to be seen. But as council can appreciate, anytime there's economic downturn, the tax arrears amounts generally do spike.
Go ahead.
So is the intent that the 35% is conditional on receipt of the, no?
No,
So as the county, we're just going to give the 35% whether it's paid or not?
that's
Whether
the
they pay
intent
the
of
65% or not?
That's the intent through the chair of the provincial program. And then in terms of the next year, it's unclear how that would work next year, but the province has basically indicated they're looking to amend the assessment model, so that would be a direct impact once the information is provided on the year assessment from the province. So in terms of future years, there is no indication as of yet, and we're waiting to see what's in the provincial budget in terms of potential relief for municipalities in future years. But in terms of the 2019 taxes, it's cost neutral to the municipality since the rebate has been provided through a reduction in the education levy.
Just to follow up, so our understanding is that regardless of our ability to collect or otherwise, we will get this 35% from the province. So based on the numbers that we have here, the province will be giving us the indicated 35% rebate.
That's correct. And in the September education payment, the levy was reduced by approximately $1.1 million. So we've already received that credit in September. And the balance will be received in December as a credit to the education requisition.
CEO Hogan.
To follow up on that, the bill has answered the one question around this year. Even if they don't pay, we do receive that credit from the province. That there's no indication that continues next year at all. The other component to that is the province is mandated. It's an all or nothing program, so you can't pick and choose companies. You can't do anything like that. So it's basically you provide it for all of them or you provide it for none of them. In terms of providing it for none of them, this is the most mandatory voluntary program the province has ever put out. The component to that as well, the province has also mandated in their material that municipalities are not allowed to attach conditions to the credit. So I know we had talked before about potentially making it so that a company would receive the credit if they were in good tax standing. The province has negated our ability to place a condition like that on the program.
I appreciate the information, though I don't like it. Any other questions? Councillor.
I wanted to see if this mic works, is really all I want to talk for. Pipelines are taxed separately from the well or as part of the well?
There's two components to the program, yes. So there are that delineation in the information of what is eligible. So part of it is for well relief and part of it is for pipeline relief directly attached to those producing wells. So that there is a schedule that outlines that. In terms of the wells, there's approximately 3,900 wells. Oh, sorry, it's upside down. Sorry, 3,900 wells that are impacted in 3,241 pipe segments that are included in the calculation.
Any other questions? What are your wishes? We need to make a motion. Councillor King.
So my understanding is that we're voluntarily making this motion to comply with a provincial demand, basically. All right. This sounds like when my mom used to tell me some things. I guess I would make the motion then that pursuant to Section 347 of the Municipal Government Act, for all properties identified in the appendix attached, summary of tax relief by company, attached to and forming a part of these council minutes, council authorizes the following: cancellation and or refund of the 2019 property taxes paid or owing so as to reduce by 35% property taxes levied as per Section 353(2) of the Municipal Government Act, which includes municipal property taxes, requisitions detailed in sections 326(1)(a) and 359(1)(2), as well as special taxes levied under section 3821, where the tax rate based is on the assessment.
Thank you. You must need a drink of water after reading all of that. Any conversation to the motion? Okay, I'll call into the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously. Alrighty, on to 8.1, the Kneehill Regional FCSS Budget and Allocations. Go ahead when you're ready.
So the item before council at the moment is the 2020 Kneehill Regional FCSS Budget and Allocations. The administration received the FCSS 2020 budget. Under the Kneehill Regional FCSS agreement, it states that the board shall prepare the annual budget and provide a copy to each participating municipality for review and approval. So this is them completing their proposed budget and sending it out to the partnering agencies for their review and approval to make sure there's no concerns or issues with it. So this, if approved, would be included in the municipalities and Kneehill County's overall 2020 budget. This would be a funding grant to that organization. And a recommendation from staff is that the council approve the Kneehill Regional Family and Community Support Services 2020 budget and allocations as presented. Overall, this has gone through the board and they've approved it at their September 10th, 2019 meeting. And they're looking to, a small increase in the municipal requisition by 1.4%, which will cover the cost of living increase in 2020. So the Kneehill County's contribution in 2019 was $47,388, and if approved, would be $48,052 in 2020.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor King.
So not so much a question as just for information for council's sake. Last year, the FCSS board was approached by the town of Three Hills. We had assessed a 5% increase last year, and the town of Three Hills had suggested that maybe we look at following the cost of living. So rather than waiting 4 or 5 years and then hitting everybody with a 5 or 6% increase, just to ease into that over time. So just to use the cost of living as a requisition increase over time. So you're going to see a requisition increase on a regular basis based on a decision that was made by the FCSS board that we would request a cost of living increase on an annual basis rather than wait 4 or 5 years and then hit everybody with a larger increase. So that's why you're seeing this. It was a policy change that was made by the board after last year's requisition. So.
Thank you. Good information. Councillor Keever.
Then is only on the salaries? Is that how they're arriving, the amount of money they want? Or is it on that total?
Okay, so the 1.4% is just on the requisition. Okay, so what we're doing is we just looked at what was the requisition from the towns, villages, and county last year, and then we added a 1.4% to that. As far as the budget itself, it may or may not have gone up by 1.4% in different areas, but not specifically salaries or otherwise. Just as another point of information, one of the things that has happened here in the last quarter for this current year is the province is only sending funding on a month-by-month basis. So for the fourth quarter, rather than getting the 27,000 or whatever it is we would expect from the province, we got 9,000 for the month of October. So consequence is big funding people that we have like Seniors Outreach, we're now funding them on a month-by-month basis. So we're sending out a letter to Seniors Outreach. Seniors Outreach money was 27,000. We're only sending them 9,000. The government sent us much more than that. I think our fourth quarter money would have been in the range of a little less than 100,000 that we would have got from the province. They only gave us a third of that. So what we're doing is with people like Seniors Outreach, we're only funding them now monthly because we don't know if the province is going to send us November or if they're going to send us December. They're not saying they will or won't, but they're just giving us interim funding. So we're doing that with our big funding partners as well, like Seniors Outreach. I anticipate we're going to get some feedback on that. They're not going to be happy not to get their full requisition, but we're not getting it. We can't guarantee it to them either. But this here, what we're dealing with today is based on last year's requisition from the municipalities, we have increased that request by 1.4%.
Great, good information, thank you. Any other questions? Looking for a motion therefore. Councillor Christie?
I'll move to accept the FCSS, it's moving, requisition and accounting.
So for clarification, are you moving to receive it or to approve it? I'm not sure I heard that correctly.
Move to approve the budget and allocation as presented.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. 8.2, policing service funding. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you. As council is aware, the province has unleashed a proposed model in terms of police funding. So currently, there are a number of municipalities in the province that don't pay the provincial, don't pay for RCMP or policing services, namely being rural municipalities and urban municipalities with a population of under 5,000. The province is looking to change that, where all municipalities would contribute to policing costs, and they're currently in their consultation period on the process. So as the background says, the draft proposal includes the 291 municipalities who are not currently paying for policing and would begin paying a percentage of frontline policing costs. They outline that entire cost is $232.5 million, and the proposal doesn't signify how much of that they're going to recover. The models that they put out there range anywhere from 15% to 70%. So again, that's a fairly big gap. The proposed formula would allow the province to recover the 15 to 70% that I mentioned, and it would be based on equalized assessment and a per capita. So the formula is 70% equalized assessment and 30% on a per capita basis. And they take those two numbers, they put them together, and there's a couple other modifiers that they may come into play, like the crime index and things like that. Probably won't come into play for us specifically, but in some areas they will be, which alters the numbers a little bit. From our perspective, the formula as proposed at 15% recovery would have a cost of around $238,000 to Kneehill County. If the province went to 70% recovery, we're looking at $1.1 million, and these are per year costs. In addition to this, there's been no indication, there's been no formal indication that would increase the service level that rural areas or that our communities see from the RCMP. So there has been some comment that the province would look to reinvest this in frontline policing, but the definition of that or what exactly that means or that investment would look like, we haven't seen any details on that. So at the current time, it doesn't appear that there would be any large-scale service differences than what we receive right now. We'd simply be paying a tax to cover for it. The Rural Municipalities of Alberta Group has prepared a response submission and continues to collect feedback from its member municipalities. So RMA has sent a response back. In their response, they're outlining a number of concerns, one around the ability to direct RCMP, one around service levels, another around the inequity, what is seen as inequities in the formula. 70% of it is based on equalized assessment. Equalized assessment in and of itself is not necessarily a driver of crime. They're looking at saying that formula shouldn't be, that's an unfair ask on rural municipalities who oftentimes, and most times, have a higher equalized assessment, which isn't necessarily driving crime, but a lower level of policing service. And then the proposed formula hits them harder than it does other municipalities. So that's a concern to us as well. The Kneehill County, we have the opportunity as a county to distribute our own feedback letter to the province. And a lot of what we're proposing is we would echo those concerns from put forward by the RMA, is we would look to say we don't think that the level of service we receive warrants paying for costs, or we're concerned that if we did have to pay additional policing costs, we're not going to see a level of service commensurate with what with now having to put funding in. In previous discussions, we've also talked around a couple of different ways that could look like. If that's going to simply be an invoice we receive and we just include it in our operating expense, or if that's going to be a requisition we receive from the province. And previously, we've conveyed that we would like to see that as a provincial requisition, if it does come through. So it would act just like the school tax, just like Seniors Foundation, anything like that. We would get that. It would appear on the tax notice as its own line item, right, for people to see. The downside to that, and we're still recommending we do that, the downside to that is if it is a requisition, that may erode some of the argument that we should have more direct control over what the RCMP are doing or what their priorities are. We do get to help establish their priorities now. That wouldn't necessarily have to change if there was a requisition, but the opportunity is there that it might. So there is a little bit of stuff on both sides of the ledger there. So what we're looking for here is basically for council to direct administration to send a letter indicating our concerns to the province, or with the police funding proposal by the province. So we're just looking for council's formal direction to us to send a letter outlining the points that we've put in here that are the county's concerns with the proposed model. And what we're seeing as a download from the province is the ability for the province to recoup costs may look good on their books and give them something that they can go out and say, hey, look, we've reduced this. At the end of the day, there's only one taxpayer. That individual is still going to be paying for this, whether they're paying us or paying the province. So the provincial books are going to look better, but it's not going to provide any benefit to somebody on the ground.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Christie.
When you started off, you commented that municipalities 5,000 or less weren't paying, and we're just a bit over 5,000, so that means we'd get caught no matter what. Is that right?
Yes. No rural municipalities don't pay at all, regardless of size. And there's a couple of exceptions with specialized and things, but there is either way. Yeah, whether it's just municipalities under 5 or whether it's rurals, we're not going to be exempt under any fashion.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor King.
I guess I would certainly comment on the equalized assessment portion of it, and the fact that if we pay for a larger percentage of this policing cost, we certainly are not getting our share of policing from RCMP. I have a real problem with that portion of the formula, and so I guess, yeah, I'd be very supportive of us sending a letter saying this should really be population-based. And even at that, I have a problem with that, because our population, based on where they live, they don't see the policing that somebody who lives in a town or a village or a city sees from RCMP. We see them on the highways. We don't see them on the gravel unless they're responding to a break-in or some other kind of complaint that a rural resident has put in. But oftentimes it's not even within hours, it's within days that we see a response. So I think it's incumbent on us to really push back against this and say this is absolutely unacceptable. I know the province is trying to save money, but why do we have to pay for policing that we're not getting? We're not getting this, so why are we paying for it? And I think we need to really push back on this one.
Through you, Madam Chair, administration fully agrees that that needs to be pushed back on. In addition to the points there, one that I neglected that I skipped over, is the other component to this is a philosophical one in terms of the county has a peace officer program. So we enforce our own bylaws. We enforce our own complaints. We don't require the RCMP to do that. So the RCMP enforcement, and there's a lot more than what I'm just going to list off, but primarily Traffic Safety Act, which is a provincial statute, and Criminal Code, which is a federal statute. So what is actually being asked from us philosophically is we're paying for the province and the federal government to enforce their own rules. Because our bylaws and things like that, we have a peace officer program that's doing the vast majority, if not all of that. And so that's one of the items we'd push back on as well, is that it's unfair to ask local municipalities to pay for the province to police its own rules, or for the federal government to police its own jurisdiction.
Councillor
Just
King?
to follow up, the reality is even though they're supposedly enforcing their own rules, for most rural residents, we don't see that anyway. I happen to have the good fortune of living on pavement, but if you ask me how many times I see an RCMP go by my location, it's rare, and I'm on pavement. For the majority of our residents, for them to say that they're seeing either criminal code or highway safety traffic act stuff being enforced, where they're going to see that might be Highway 21. But other than that, our realization of RCMP activity in our area is virtually non-existent. And I hate to be that blunt about it, but that's the reality for a rural resident. We just do not get policing. And so to ask us to pay for something that we're not even getting, in my mind, is totally unacceptable. And so I'm 100% behind us doing exactly this, is to push back and say, no, this is not an acceptable request.
Councillor Penner?
Just further to add to it, I'm in agreement. Yes, we need to send a letter, but I'd also like to encourage our residents to fill out the survey that we have on our website, and have your voices heard. So,
Good point. Thank you. And thanks to administration for putting that right onto our site. We appreciate that, because that is a provincial survey, right? Yeah. Any other comments? Looking for a motion otherwise? Councillor Penner?
I'll make the motion that council directs administration to send a response letter indicating our concerns that we've discussed here with the police funding proposal by the province.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Carried unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we're at 10 o'clock, past 10 o'clock, so we'll bounce back to our scheduled Intermunicipal Development Plan, Bylaw 1801 for Linden and Kneehill County. Thank you. So this is a public hearing. And so I shall call for a motion for the public hearing for bylaw, sorry, lost my number, 1801. Councillor Christie.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. I will read through our presentation guidelines. If any person's interested in speaking for or against the proposed bylaw and haven't done so already, should register their names on the appropriate speakers list so your names may be correctly recorded into the minutes. If you have not already done so, please see Jenna Kester in the lobby to register your name on this list. The use of audio and video recording devices and cameras by the press or the public is prohibited. Our galley, I think, understands who we all are, so we will just cross over our council membership. Individuals seeking for or against the proposed bylaw today will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. A spokesperson speaking on behalf of a group petition may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. We have a time clock that will be displayed on the screen. At 2 minutes, it will turn yellow. At 1 minute, it will turn red. And when the clock hits 0, there will be a 5-second warning that your speaking time is complete. All questions to council will be directed to myself as chairman, and I will direct the question to the person best suited to answer. No questions will be taken from the gallery. No debate will be allowed. When presenting, speakers shall state their name and address. If you are already submitted a letter on or before the advertised deadline, you may only address the council at this hearing on new information not contained in your letter. Any person who would like to present using an electronic presentation will bring their USB flash drive to the presenter desk, where a staff member will open the file at the presenter laptop. The order of the presentations to be made to the council today will be: first, administration shall present an overview and a summary regarding the proposed bylaw. Secondly, the applicant shall state their name and present their application within the time period of 20 minutes. Third, members of the council can ask questions of clarification to the applicant. Fourth, the chair shall open the floor to presentations from the public who are in favor of the proposed bylaw. The order for these presentations will be in the following order. Administration will come forward and read the written submissions. Individuals will be called in order as they appear on the individual speaking list. Group speakers will be called in the order as they appear on the group speakers list. Fifth, the chair shall open the floor to presentations from the public who are in opposition to the proposed bylaw. The order for these presentations will be the following order. Administration will come forward and read the written submissions. Individuals will be called in the order as they appear on the individual speakers list. Group speakers will be called in the order as they appear on the group speakers list. Council members are allowed to ask questions of clarification to the individuals and groups speaking to the proposed bylaw. 6, after hearing from those persons on the speakers list in support or in opposition, I will ask for anyone else present wishes to speak in support or opposition to the proposed bylaw. Seventh, the applicant will get a chance for rebuttal, which will be no longer than 10 minutes. 8th, allow questions for clarification from council members to the applicant. I will now ask our planning department to come forward to make their presentation.
Good morning again. We're here today for the public hearing to begin the adoption process of the intermunicipal development plan between Kneehill County and the village of Linden. As required by the Act under Section 606, we have done our advertising. It went in 3 times. It's been on the website, and all the adjacent landowners were notified by mail. So if they were in the plan area, they did get copies of the information and an opportunity to provide comment. Again, the new Municipal Government Act, and you're going to hear this a lot because we have 10 of these coming. 2 or more councils of municipalities that have common boundaries that are not members of a growth region, as defined in section 708.1, must, by each passing a bylaw in accordance with this part, or in accordance with sections 12 and 692, adopt an intermunicipal development plan to include those areas of land lying within the boundaries of the municipalities as they consider necessary. So in these plans, we have to address future land use, future development, transportation systems, intermunicipal infrastructure, intermunicipal programs relating to the physical, social, economic development of the area, environmental matters, intermunicipal services and facilities, and any other matter related to the physical, social, or economic development of the area as you deem necessary. The plan also has to include some conflict resolution, procedure to be used to amend or appeal the plan, and then any provisions relating to the administration of the plan. So these plans provide a framework for collaboration, for open communication, for jurisdictional autonomy, and for a provision of services. They promote opportunities for residential, commercial, industrial, and economic development while minimizing impacts on these adjacent uses. So it does provide more opportunity for these adjacent municipalities to provide comment on some of these things. The purpose and guiding principles specifically in this plan are mutual respect and equity, cooperation, collaboration, communication and trust, coordinated, consistent, and timely response, respect for the environment and natural capital, and public engagement and consultation, and economic growth and development. When it comes to managing growth, the IDP has a goal to facilitate orderly, efficient, and environmentally sound development compatible with the character and physical setting of the plan area while minimizing conflicts between agricultural and urban land uses. When it comes to the environment in the plan area, the natural environment and surrounding the village does not respect municipal boundaries. Both municipalities shall recognize the value of the natural environment and its contribution to the quality of life. Under the transportation policies, we are to recognize the importance of establishing and creating a continuous network of roads within the plan area in order to efficiently manage growth. Under the economic and joint development, planning future growth may raise opportunities for mutually beneficial economic development and joint development opportunities. Under agriculture, we strive to maintain the importance of agriculture by directing future growth in a compact, contiguous manner that minimizes intrusions into agricultural operations. You will note in this aerial image that a lot of the land in question is agricultural. A lot of the land in the plan area is currently agricultural use. Other opportunities are, though, available to an applicant as long as they are part of the Intermunicipal Development Plan, Municipal Development Plan, or Land Use Bylaw of the jurisdiction under which they fall. We want to be able to recite developments to reduce conflicts between residential and non-residential land uses. Future growth may create opportunities for shared servicing or community-based facilities. And I think we've now included in most of these plans the opportunity that wherever it's more feasible, or if it's feasible, the services could be provided by either. So in our case, it could be water or some of those transportation services, and the village could be water or wastewater, depending on what's more feasible. Under commercial industrial uses, we're wanting to promote well-planned commercial industrial development that will support the creation of a strong, diversified economy, expanding the availability of employment opportunities, and contributing to a balanced municipal assessment base. Both municipalities shall work together to maximize the advantages of the commercial and industrial opportunities potentially offered by visibility from Highway 806 and Township Road 30-4, which is Central Avenue through Linden. So this is the intermunicipal plan area, and you can see the dark outline is the actual lands that fall within Linden, and everything else is lands that fall within our Kneehill County jurisdiction. So you can see there's some large portions within the village as well. We've also included the zone, we've pulled up the environmentally sensitive areas. So those are areas where development, the potential might be limited, or they may have more hoops they have to jump through just to ensure that there's no problems with slumping or flooding or those types of things. So we've included those maps within the plan. We've also included the soil classification map so that you can see that we're really at a fairly low level in the ESA area, and then a fairly high level too in lands surrounding and through Linden. And then oil and gas activity, we do have a fair amount of that in the area. And so again, that also contributes to how development occurs. So in the plan area, both the village and county will maintain jurisdiction over the decisions made within their borders. Applications are evaluated against each municipality's MDP, as well as a statutory and non-statutory plan. So that's MDP and land use bylaws, and if there's any area structure plans. Notifications will be done by both the village and the county for applications received within the subject lands. And the village and county have agreed to share ownership information and mailing addresses for circulation purposes. In the interface area, which is areas where different land uses meet and intersect, each municipality will ensure future land use designations and interface areas are compatible and consistent with both municipalities' goals and aspirations. The intermunicipal zone consideration, so water, and as we said a little bit earlier, water and sanitary sewer may be extended from the village where feasible. In some cases, it may be more viable for water to be extended from the county. Buffers or similar mechanisms to mitigate potential conflict between commercial industrial uses and other uses shall be used where necessary. Applications will be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Existing agricultural areas shall continue to be used for agricultural activities unless a landowner proposes to convert agricultural lands to another opportunity provided for in the jurisdictional IDP, MDP, or land use bylaw. We've done a close-up here of just, this is just Linden now strictly with satellite image. So you can see that even within the Linden village area, there's a lot of agricultural land still. And so again, those things will be discussed on a regular basis. And then when we pan out, we can see that the larger plan area, we're really talking about a lot of agricultural land. When it comes to the committee, for the plan to be ongoing, it needs to remain applicable, so the committee will ensure continued dialogue. A committee will be established, an even number of members from council, from both the village and the county. They will be appointed at the organizational meetings, and a formal review will occur every 4 years of these plans. The function of the committee, you are the forum when you're on the committee for issues of common interest or concern. You help to address proposed amendments, engage in resolving conflicts. You are not the decision-making body. You provide comments and recommendations back to the appropriate decision-making body, and in both cases it would be to the councils of the village or the county. For dispute resolution process, we do have a process that we've outlined in all of these documents. So the CAO to CAO is the first attempt to resolve. If that's non-resolvable, then it refers to the committee for a second attempt to resolve. Mediation is your next step, and that is only initiated by either the village or county council. And then it can go to the Municipal Government Board. The bylaw may be adopted, and the municipality in opposition can refer to the, or appeal to the Municipal Government Board. The process to date and going forward, so 2 members from each council, along with the CAOs from each municipality appointed to the committee to review. The review of the documents was completed and some minor amendments were made. We have our scheduled public hearing today, and the Village of Linden has scheduled theirs for October 15th. And then councils will consider second and third readings of their bylaws at the same or subsequent council meetings following the public hearings. And as that happens, then there is adoption of the bylaw. So to date, we received no letters in favor and no letters in opposition. We did receive a late letter from Alberta Health Services, which is quite lengthy. I will read that into the record as just the agency comments, because they've been tasked with a larger mandate than previously when they've commented on these documents. So I think the first go in, it might be a good idea just to read some of the things that they've been tasked with as they review some of these documents. But that's it for my presentation.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for our planner? Oh, I think we're well learned on the subject. And therefore, we're the applicant. And therefore, does anyone have a question of the applicant? I will now ask administration to come forward to read the written submissions that are in favor of the proposed bylaw, which I understand are none.
There aren't any, but I think I will read the comments from Alberta Health Services, if you don't mind. They just provide, and they, as I said, they've been tasked with the bigger mandate now to provide comment on these documents. So I think it's imperative that we read at least one into the record. So thank you for the opportunity to comment on Village of Linden and Kneehill County Intermunicipal Development Plan. The review conducted by Alberta Health Services Environmental Public Health was completed using a public health lens and includes considerations for the design of healthy communities. In addition to conventional areas of public health concern, such as drinking water systems, sewage treatment and disposal systems, incompatible land uses, and contaminated site assessment, our review process now includes 5 health aspects: neighborhood design, housing, natural environments, transportation network, and food systems. These concepts are part of the Healthy Built Environments Toolkit, which can be accessed, and they do provide us ongoing or a number of opportunities where we can connect with them further. So under the general land use, the industrial development, the IDP describes that any commercial industrial development proposed adjacent to a watercourse, wetland, environmental, or hazard lands may require a geotechnical study and environmental review to confirm the intended use and describe potential impacts of development. AHS EPH, which is the environmental branch as well, supports the aforementioned policy and also supports consideration of potential impacts of industrial development on adjacent land uses, including nuisance concerns and any requirements for risk and environmental impact assessments. We are available to consult on issues such as dust, air quality, and water pollution where required or requested. AHS EPH is in support of buffers or similar mechanisms to mitigate potential future conflict between commercial, industrial, agricultural, and other uses as it can mitigate any anticipated nuisance concerns. Under wastewater and water services, the IDP states water and sanitary sewer may be extended from the village, and that in some cases it may be more viable for water to be extended from the county to service areas of the village. AHS EPH recommends that any new development or redevelopment occurs, lots are connected to municipal services if possible, including water and wastewater services. AHS EPH also supports policies that support infrastructure for regional municipal water and wastewater systems for new and expanding developments. Regional municipal systems allow for reduced lot size and ultimately healthier and more economical use of land assets. AHS EPH does not support connection to unlicensed water systems, as the liability, issues, and costs of operating and maintaining such a system can become prohibitive, leading to mismanagement, potential nuisance issues, and contamination of groundwater, including drinking water aquifers. Under stormwater management, the IDP indicates that best management practices for stormwater management shall be required in accordance with Alberta Environment and Parks regulations. AHS EPH recommends that stormwater management facilities must be designed so as not to create potential mosquito breeding areas. Example, stormwater ponds with steep sides, measures to prevent formation of shallow stagnant water bodies. The IDP indicates that applicants of a redesignation, subdivision, or development shall be required to obtain confirmation of the 1 in 100 flood level on the affected lands, and that applicants may be required to provide an environmental review by a qualified professional where an environmental sensitive feature is present. AHS EPH is in support of the aforementioned policy, as natural disasters such as flooding can negatively impact the built environment. Land use subdivisions and development. AHS EPH is available to provide comment on outline plans, subdivision applications for developments, including commenting on transportation infrastructure or municipal services. AHS EPH supports that during any proposed development, legal access is required from a county, township, or range road for any proposed development as to mitigate any concerns with access and potential nuisance conditions. Healthy built environment. Alberta Health Services Safe Healthy Environment advocates for the use of a population of public health lands to inform considerations for the design of healthy communities. Many communities are now including healthy community design standards in development plans. Communities in Alberta, Canada, and around the world are recognizing the critical link between health and how our built environments are designed. Complete streets, connected and walkable neighborhoods, and ensuring easy access to natural spaces are just a few of the examples of the design principles that many communities are implementing to promote resident health. Designing communities to protect and promote health has many benefits, including promotion of healthy lifestyle choices, improved mental health and social environments, safety and injury prevention, as well as reducing healthcare costs due to preventable chronic diseases and cancer. We have provided a general overview of the 5 pillars of healthy community design and have provided comments on incorporating healthy built environment concepts that are consistent with these domains. Neighborhoods where people can easily connect with each other and a variety of day-to-day services are beneficial to the well-being of residents. A complete, compact, and connected neighborhood can foster better mental health and physical health of individuals within that community. Land use decisions that influence zoning, transportation systems, and neighborhood designs can support this. Healthy housing. Affordable, accessible, and good quality housing for all that is free of hazard and enables people to engage in the activities of daily living have impacts on health. Incorporating healthy and varied housing into land use planning assists in fostering good mental and physical health while improving the quality of life for all ages and income levels. Healthy natural environments. In regards to the planned area environment, the IDP states both municipalities recognize the value of the natural environment and its contribution to the quality of life. AHS EPH is in support of this because research supports a strong relationship between people's exposure to natural areas and the reduction of stress, chronic disease, depression, and anxiety, as well as improved concentration and cognitive function. Communities that are designed to incorporate natural environment into their plans can help promote more physical activity and better mental health. Healthy transportation networks. Prioritizing active transportation, example walking or cycling, can encourage residents to choose self-empowered movements whenever possible and can achieve increase in physical activity and help reduce emissions, leading to better mental and physical health for residents. Active transportation can also help reduce emissions, leading to better mental and physical health for residents. Healthy food systems. The IDP describes that agricultural uses represent the largest land use category in the IDP, and that the IDP strives to maintain the importance of agriculture by directing future growth in a compact, contiguous manner that minimizes intrusions into agricultural operations. Supporting local agricultural capacity supports access and availability of healthy foods for all, and in the form of healthy food system initiative. How people choose food and what kind of food items that they have access to can be influential factors of their overall health status. Land use design decisions may impact accessibility, quality, and variety of food available to residents. AHS EPH is in support of prioritizing agricultural capacity. Additional examples of designs of healthy food systems are support of community-scale food infrastructure and services, enhancing community garden capacity, or encouraging grocery stores to be located within walking distance of residential areas, and ensuring access to healthy foods. AH recognizes that the IDP has prioritized healthy natural environments and healthy food systems with supportive policies. We believe that commitments such as this support healthier communities. AHS continues to appreciate the opportunity to comment on land use development documents and is available for consultation with Healthy Communities by Design concepts.
Thank you. Any others to read? Okay. I will now call on individuals in the order they appear on the individual speakers list in favor of the bylaw to come forward to make your presentation. And I would remind them that they have 5 minutes. However, I have 0 names on the list. I will now call on individuals speaking as a group in order that they appear on the group list in favor of the bylaw to come forward to make your presentations. And I would remind them that they have 10 minutes to speak. I have 0 names on the list. I will now call on administration to come forward to read the written submissions that are in opposition of the proposed bylaw. There are none. Thank you, Barb. I will now call on individuals in the order that they appear on the individual speakers list in opposition to come forward to make your presentation. There are none. I will now call on individuals in the order they appear in the group list in opposition of the bylaw to come forward to make your presentation. There are none. I will now ask one final time if there is anyone else present who wishes to speak in support or in opposition of the proposed bylaw. There are none. Does the applicant wish to offer rebuttal to nothing? Does council have further questions for the applicant? I now declare the public hearing closed and ask for a motion to go back into the regular council meeting. Councillor King.
So moved.
All those in favor? Thank you. Are we good? Do we need a break? Good. Good. Okay, we are going back to our regular meeting agenda, and we are now at 8.3, Town of Trochu request to help support the Trochu Senior Supportive Living Facility Project. Go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The administration on October 2nd received a request from the town of Trochu to partner with them in the construction of a Trochu Senior Supportive Living Facility project. So that letter, as well as details on the project and a PowerPoint presentation regarding the project, are all attached in the package. As part of this request, the town of Trochu is also asking for a meeting between the town and county to take place in October. So it's something that administration, the meeting component is something administration will start to organize. This is, the overall request is quite large, and administration is recommending that the county seek further information and clarity prior to making a formal decision. Entertaining this request, where we need to investigate some of the legal ramifications and look at what the impacts on some areas of the county's finance and resource availability are. This will, if council entertains this request, it will eat up a significant chunk of the county's debt limit. Looking to investigate more things in that realm, such as the business case behind the development or the proposed development, the partnerships in play, how the usage of the debt space corresponds to the county's priorities as identified in the strategic plan, any number of those questions. So we feel that there's more here to explore. As part of the information gathering, as I said, administration can arrange the requested meeting with the town and county councils, and that's something that I'll work with my counterpart at the town to find dates for and to go forward on. The request itself, as outlined in the letter, is the town is looking to have the county essentially back an initial loan of up to $25 million for the construction of the facility. They are planning on having some of the facility paid for through grants and items like that. However, as is often the case, the grants usually, you sometimes don't receive those until construction's underway or until it's been completed. So of course there's some front ending of cost. Once that's done, they've indicated that there's a worst case scenario where financing of $17 million would be required. Again, a number to be determined. That was put out there as this would be the maximum, and that amount would be paid back from the operations of the facility itself. So there is, as I said, we feel there's some more information to gather here and work to do. Ultimately, it is council's decision on how you want to proceed on this for the present time. But there are some considerations out there. The town of Trochu has like all municipalities, has a debt limit. I believe that's in the neighborhood of about $4 million, which means that they are not able to finance this on their own. They do need partners, and they do need other entities like the county to be able to make the project move forward. So with that, our recommendation is for here today to receive the request for information, and for council to direct administration to do more information gathering for discussion at a later date.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. Council, any questions to our presenter? Looking for a motion? Councilor Christie.
I'll make the motion to put the report in for information and direct administration to provide further information.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comments to the motion? Councillor King.
The only comments I would make is just to agree with Councillor Christie. I think that there's a number of questions that we need answered as a council before we can move forward, and so I'm very supportive of the request for more information.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I will call the motion then. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. (9.1) Community Grant Application, Prairie Bible Institute. We had heard their presenting earlier. Go ahead with the request, please.
Under this section, the request for decision is just seeking that the council accept the information, or accept the presentation for information as presented.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Motions? Councillor Penner? No? Okay, sorry. Misread you. Mr. Hogan?
We'll add for council's information, the presentations that you saw here today for around the community grant program funding, those as well as a list of others will come back to council at a committee of the whole for consideration. So we're not looking for you to necessarily make a decision today. They came in as delegations today because council's policy asked that any requests over 5,000 come in to speak to you about the request. So here today, we're just looking for those to be accepted as information. The entire list of community grants will come back to you for a decision at a future committee of the whole.
Thanks for the clarification. Councillor Penner?
Thanks for the clarification, Mike. I would make the motion to the council receive the information that Prairie Bylaw Institute presented here today as information.
Thank you. Any questions or comments to the motion? All those in favor to receive as information? Carried. Same thing. Now we're on to 9.2, the community grant application for Hillside Lanes Bowling Society. Back to you, Mike.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the same as the last item. It is again, just council formally acknowledging that the presentation that occurred here today, that you've accepted it for information. Again, it'll come back as part of the whole listing at a future committee of the whole meeting.
Thank you. Councillor Keever.
So move, we accept the report from Hillside Lanes and refer for further information.
Thank you. Any comments or discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. We are now up to our community reports, council and committee reports. If we could have... Oh, excuse me, I did skip one. Very important, long one, winded one. We can't let Barb not be appreciated. Oh, my goodness. Sorry, Barb. Back to you.
Nature of the beast. We're coming back with the request for decision. As you are well aware, we just had the public hearing for the Linden, Kneehill County Intermunicipal Development Plan. So this is to come forward that council, and our recommended motion is council move second reading to adopt and then consider additional readings, whether you guys do third reading today or not, but we are recommending that. So again, everyone has been notified as per the required legislation. I'm probably not going to read a lot of this because we just went through it a few minutes ago, but and had opportunity to provide comment notices were sent. And so we did hold the public hearing as required at 10 a.m. just a few minutes ago. And so we're just bringing it back to you guys for second and potentially third reading.
Thank you, Barb. You kept that nice and sweet. So we are looking for any discussion or motion. Councillor Penner.
I will move second reading of Bylaw 1801 to adopt the Village of Linden and the Kneehill County Intermunicipal Development Plan.
Any discussion? All those in favor of second reading? Carried. Councillor King.
I'd make the motion that council move third reading of bylaw 1801 to adopt the Village of Linden, Kneehill County Intermunicipal Development Plan.
Any discussion? All those in favor of third reading of bylaw 1801? Carried. Thank you. Now we're ready for our report. It was pre-circulated. Is there any additional comments or discussion? You have a question? No? Councilor Christie,
I'll make a motion to receive council and committee reports as presented.
thank you. All those in favor of receiving the reports is carried. We also pre-circulated the council follow-up action list. Any discussion, comments needed on our list? Looks like we're making good progress on everything we need to make, so looking for a motion then. Councillor Penner.
I'll move that council receive the follow-up action list as presented for information.
Thank you. Do we have a need for closed session that has come up? Oh, excuse me. I jumped the gun again. I must be in a hurry to be out in the snow. I don't know. My apologies. Let's go back then to the motion to accept the follow-up action list. All those in favor? Carried. Now, do we have anything to add to the agenda for closed session? Alrighty, no needs there. Looking for a motion to adjourn? Meeting adjourned at 10:43.
I'm going to comment.